Hey up, Sofa Squad. Black Sofa back again, and I'm joined this evening from. I'm joined by scientist Mel this evening, and we're going to be chatting mainly about the coronavirus, but maybe some other topical news stories. But we'll see how we get on. Um, Mel, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Yeah. I'm fine. I'm fine. We've self-isolated this weekend, just to be on the safe side.
Yeah, that's kind of important right now. People are like, "Why are we self-isolating? I don't feel sick." And you're like, "You could carry the virus and not have symptoms."
Yeah, exactly. Um, so, how are things where you are?
Well, all of our schools, kindergarten through 12th grade, so that's primary all the way through secondary school, they're all shut down for the
Mhm.
next 2 weeks. Some of them are already on spring break, so that usually lasts about a week. So they'll extend it an additional week. A lot of our colleges and universities are the same. So they're shutting down an additional week. So instead of like having 1 week for break, they're having two. And then some of the colleges are moving towards online classes and the normal schools, I think most of them will resume meeting around the end of the month. So we haven't
Okay.
had as many cases here, but the idea is to limit that, you know. So
Yeah. Um, can't remember how many cases we've had off the top of my head, but I think there's 21 confirmed cases at the moment in the UK.
oh, okay.
And I think at the moment, we're not on lockdown, but I think it's up to the discretion of local councils as to whether or not they close the schools um,
Mhm.
or what have you. But people have been panic buying. My ex-wife tried to do the groceries today, and she told me that the shelves were empty. Why are people doing this?
People are panicking. I think a lot of what we're seeing is the bandwagon bias. So if a lot of people are doing a particular thing, that makes it valid somehow. And so other people will join in on that. Like, well, if everybody's buying toilet paper, I need to buy toilet paper as well. This is really, really important. So, it
Yeah,
just but for people who are not buying into that, it's kind of like, do you really need 3 cases of toilet paper right now? Um,
right.
yeah, the mass hysteria. But, that's something I can't help but think that this is something that's within people's area of control. So,
Yeah,
in a situation where they don't have a lot of control over certain things, they do have control over this. Well, if everybody's buying toilet paper, what if I run out? Then I'm going to need toilet paper. So I'm going to go buy all this toilet paper and I'm going to make certain I have. And it's like a weird domino effect. It's
yeah,
strange.
yeah. Exactly. It's like that. That bunker mentality, isn't it?
A little bit.
Yeah. The shelves were bereft of baked beans as well at our local supermarket.
Honestly, that makes more sense than toilet paper.
Yeah, yeah. Why do you think people started buying toilet paper?
Because it's a domino effect. It could have been toilet paper. It could have been pens. It could have been anything.
Yeah,
Anything to where you reduce the access of a particular thing is going to cause mass panic across the population, because they're like, well, if this person buys all the pens, then I'm going to need to buy all the pens. Or if this person buys all of the soap, then I'm going to need to buy some soap, because at some point it's weird. We associate a lot of value with how much people want a thing. I mean, we have people in the US right now who have bought cases and cases of hand sanitizer, toilet paper, all kinds of things, and now they can't sell it because a lot of organizations are not letting them do that. Um, so here they are. There's a guy, I think in Tennessee, with 177,000 bottles of hand sanitizer, and
crazy.
he can't sell it anywhere because nobody will let him.
Right. According to the Daily Mail, one schoolboy of I think it was 13 was sent home because he was selling squirts of hand sanitizer at 50 pence a squirt.
Ah, they learn young, don't they?
Yeah. No.
They learn young. It's a weird thing. And to be quite frank, a lot of the panic that's associated with this is the complete and total lack of a plan, um, of from various governments. In the U.S. being what we would call a quote unquote superpower, to have such a derelict response to a clear pandemic, the dismantling of our first response team in the White House, the lack of accessibility of tests. China is offering to give us tests right now. That's where we're at. But of course, our
Hmm.
president blamed China for having the virus to begin. That literally not how any of this works. Guys, please buy Chinese food. It's completely all right. So,
Right.
you know, um, not in Mexico is now considering shutting down their borders to keep the coronavirus out of their country from the US. So that's irony for you.
Yeah. That. Yeah. Isn't it ironic? Don't you think?
It's like rain on your wedding day. Canada's doing just fine, guys.
Yeah.
Props to
I,
Canada.
yeah, I read that Canada is leading the way in finding some kind of cure to the virus.
They're
Um,
looking at mostly what they've done is they've isolated the virus, which is
oh
particularly
yeah, that's it.
important. They've been able to grow it also in what we would call like a cell culture type of environment, to where they're
Mm,
able to make copies of the virus. This is really important, in that since they have the individual virus isolated to where they can make copies of it, they could conceivably come up with a vaccine, because now they have the protein signatures associated with the virus. Now, how your body works. Um, we make immune cells associated with whatever little receptors are on the outside of our viruses that we can track. And so it's kind of like our immune cells will make like almost like a puzzle piece to kind of attach to all of the different weird shaped proteins that might be coming off of this particular virus. So if we're able to isolate the virus, make something that looks like it without it causing disease, then we can initiate antibodies and an immune response that would simulate that of being actually infected. That's kind of how vaccines work. So now that we have the virus by itself, we know what it looks like. We can make copies of it, though, so therefore we should be able to start figuring out how to get a deactivated version of that to where it doesn't cause disease in order to develop a vaccine. But that still takes time. It's kind of like if you're going to make a giant wedding cake for, 300 people, that's still a long freaking time, and you don't even know what the recipe is yet. So
Yeah.
you got to
Yeah,
kind of
exactly.
think of that. You have to come up with the recipe and then make enough for the general population, making the vaccine itself. Once you figure it out, that'll be faster than actually generating enough vaccines for the rest of the population. That's the thing that takes time, actually manufacturing that.
Yeah. So, what is COVID-19, and how does it differ to other viruses that we've seen in the past? Because I seem to remember a few years back there was the SARS virus. Is it similar to that, or is it
They're
different?
all in the same family, and people are calling COVID-19 the same as SARS, and they're saying it's the same as this. The common cold is a version of the COVID virus or the
Okay.
coronavirus. There's lots of different versions of this virus, much like you've heard of HPV. That's a bit more in the news. You have HPV that causes cancer, and then you have strains of HPV that causes warts. You have strains of HPV that do absolutely nothing. Um, so much like HPV, there's various versions of COVID. Um, and so the trap. So when I'm like educating the population or talking to people about different things that are associated with sciencey terminology, I like to point out what the traps are. The trap is considering the fact that, well, because it's within the same family, it's going to behave the same way as everything else. No, no, that's not how that works at all. Um,
Right.
Essentially, what it comes down to is what are the protein signatures on the outside of that virus, and how does it attach to this? Which cells does it attack? How does it attach? How does it communicate with those cells? That's essentially what people look for when they're dealing with that. Um, so Doc Savage, who's a good friend of mine and a co-host of one of my shows for a while, I talked with him a little bit about it. He actually was kind enough to do a Q&A session with one of the local colleges over 4 campuses across 2 states, by the way. Props
Wow.
to Doc Savage. He was amazing on that. So I helped organize that to where he could talk about vaccine generation, cancer therapies, as well as viruses. And, COVID-19 was one of the things that came up. This is transmitted similarly to like SARS, to the flu, to the cold, things like that. It has to be in droplets. Now, it can survive on a surface for a while, but usually 24 to 48 hours. So, the whole idea with this self isolation is that you can be a carrier and not have any symptoms. You might not actually develop any kind of flu like symptoms, but you could still test positive for that. But you could pass it along to other people with compromised immune systems to where they would not recover so well as a young, healthy individual. So, our more fragile populations, elderly, immunocompromised, those individuals, those are the ones that we worry about. And so, since we don't have testing in the US that's very active, we don't want to overload the hospitals and the healthcare environments and stuff. We want to reserve and save those resources for the more fragile of our population. That's why we're self isolating, because it's clearly highly contagious, but it may not cause you to be sick, but it could cause other people to be very, very sick and possibly die. And do you really want that on your conscience?
Yeah, exactly. Um, what are the symptoms of coronavirus? Um, Is there any overlap between the symptoms of the coronavirus and flu and the common cold, for example?
My understanding is that there's coughing, sometimes shortness of breath. You have a bit of a fever. So, kind of like a cold, it's more pronounced in individuals who have secondary conditions. So, if you were to have like heart disease or some kind of asthma or something in addition to that, that would be a problem. So people who already have chronic illness, this is going to hit them a bit harder than individuals like myself. I tend to just have allergies and they're annoying enough, but corona on top of allergies, it would be like it would be a mild irritation. Um, but non-healthy individuals who are advanced in age or immunocompromised, they're going to exhibit shortness of breath. They won't be able to walk very far without having a hard time breathing, coughing, fever, that sort of thing. uh,
Okay.
yeah.
So what should we be doing?
Washing your hands. Don't touch your face. It's almost like it should be a game. Every time you touch your face, you should put a quarter in a jar.
Okay. Like a square jar, but a face touching jar.
A face touching jar. It's really just comes down to mindfulness. And so a lot of people have a hard time with that. And I touch my face. Now, if you're at home and you've cleaned your areas and you're not actively engaging with, like, see, I'm touching my face now. I've just broke all the CDC rules and they're going to call me and yell at me. I just know it. But you know, if you're in an environment that is free from the virus, and you clean your hands and you wash your hands regularly, okay. If you're out and about, you don't really want to touch your face. Avoid touching other people. Cover it, cough into your sleeve. Usually, if my nose itches, I just use like the inside of my shirt. I know that looks gross. I I don't care. It's like I'm gonna use my shirt to wipe my nose. If my nose itches, I'm not gonna blow my nose in my shirt because that is gross. But like
Yeah.
if your nose itches, use something like that. They're not gonna live as long in fiber as they would like your hands, and you're not likely to touch people with the inside of your sweater. Hi, how you doing?
That's true. I saw a TikTok of Gloria Gaynor washing her hands to "I Will Survive."
That's great.
Yeah,
I
that
think
that
that's
yeah,
awesome.
that was the video I didn't know I needed.
I like to pick a different song every time I go to wash my hands. I'll pick, and it's just the chorus. All you need is the chorus, and you clean in between your fingers, you clean your thumbs, you clean the top of your hands and your wrists, and you get in there. So I like to try to do a different song every time I wash my hands. So what songs do you do? Do you have songs that you do?
No, I don't actually. Um, Maybe I should think of one. But
Make a list. All your favorite songs. Who are your favorite bands?
oh, I love Radiohead. Um, so
There's so
Cre-
many
Creep,
Radiohead songs.
Creep is probably one of my favorite songs by Radiohead. I could do I could do the chorus for Creep maybe.
Yes. I'm
Yeah.
a creep. I'm a weirdo. Just like get up in them fingernails. What the hell am I doing here? I don't belong here. Why not, man?
Yeah. Or,
Make it
or
fun.
yeah, make it fun. Or just choose your favorite song.
Hmm.
And the important thing is for the soap so that the soap can do its work. Is that right?
Yes. People, okay. So you're like, why the soap? Why the soap? Okay. I'm pretty certain people have washed dishes before. You know, If you haven't washed dishes before, I suggest you go get some life experience. Um, Go
Yeah.
wash your grand's dishes or your aunties or, your uncles, whoever. Go to their house, get you some dish soap. If they made a lasagna or something really, really greasy, put some soap in there and clean it. And you'll find, okay, so what happens normally when you put like oil in water?
You're asking me.
Yeah,
Um, oh, it separates.
right.
Yeah,
Little bubbles almost, sometimes little circles, little circles of oil within the water. And then
yeah,
they'll make this little layer and there might be little bubbles underneath that look like little bubbles of oil.
yeah, yeah. That's
Nice.
right. Yeah,
Yeah, like in salad dressing, you might have seen that. Those are called micelles, MICELLES. And so what happens is, what you need with the outside of the coronavirus, imagine that one of those little bubbles is just like a virus, okay? Because its coating is oil based. They say lipid based. You hear, oh, it has a lipid based coating or, casing or, whatever fancy word. All that means is it just got a little fat bubble with stuff on the inside that makes you sick. Okay.
yeah.
So what happens when you add detergent, like washing up liquid to like a greasy pan and you put the soap on there? What happens to all that oil?
Um, I want to say it dissipates.
Dissipates. It breaks up, doesn't it?
Yeah,
That's what happens with that's what happens with viruses. So when you put like soap on there, it breaks up those little bubbles where they have the inside with all the guts of the virus on the inside. So when you add soap to it, it disrupts that little oil bubble and causes all their guts to fall out. Then they
that's
don't work anymore.
that it causes all their guts to fall out. That's a nice picture.
All of the disease causing proteins and, RNA and genetic information that would make you feel terrible completely just falls right out of the virus. It's like magic. It's like taking a bubble it's like a bubble. If the virus was like a big old balloon and it had everything in it that made you sick and you came along with soap, it's like popping that. Poof, doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I know from working in a cafe, um, that when you wipe the tables, you can't just spritz the tables and wipe the surface straight away. You've got to let the spray do its work,
Mhm.
and so the germs, get killed, have a better chance of being killed. And I'm guessing it's the same with washing your hands. You've got to let the soap do its work.
Yes, you gotta let that soap kinda work its way and pop all of those virus bubbles to where all their guts fall out, and then they don't work anymore, and you're like, "Fantastic." So, alcohol can do similar things, so the hand sanitizer is primarily alcohol-based, but,
Yeah,
when you're using soap, people are hoarding all the frickin' hand sanitizer. Soap is cheaper, just hot water and some soap, wash your hands, try not to touch your face too much, clean your clothes. If you go
yeah.
out and about, don't lick the countertops. Um, you know, don't touch each
Yeah,
other if you can. Use like, the Spock symbol
yeah,
or,
yeah,
Wakanda forever, what's up?
yeah. Or but and yet you see these world leaders like Trump and Johnson shaking hands with everyone.
Yeah,
What's that
yeah.
about?
Well, you shake hands and then you go to the bathroom and wash them. So, but what's gonna be really interesting, because it's the Brazilian president who's come down with, COVID-19, and, here he is, like, Trump is like, "Yeah, I'm not getting tested," and Pence was there. I mean, he's put his own staff at risk. I mean,
Yeah,
it just you can like I said, you can carry the virus for 2 weeks and not exhibit any symptoms. And in that time, in fact, how many people? So, or they can take it to their immunocompromised relatives and possibly kill them. So it's
Yeah,
just kind of like, just self-isolate.
yeah. And our government is talking now about herd immunity. What is herd immunity? And could it work with COVID-19?
Herd immunity. Okay, this is what we rely on primarily, in one of the things that anti-vaxxers don't quite seem to fathom. The idea is that if you have the majority of people immune to a particular virus, not only are they immune to it, but they don't carry it because their body fights it off, therefore they can't transmit it. So if you have individuals who can't acquire immunity through like a vaccine or something like that, like my brother, allergic to like poultry products, cannot eat chicken, cannot eat turkey. He cannot have standard vaccines because of the fact a lot of them are derived in eggs. a,
Oh, yeah.
a lot of vaccines are made in eggs. There are alternatives. So he's one example. My sister has an autoimmune disease, and so she's not a good candidate for different vaccines because of the fact she's immunocompromised. Um, so the idea is to develop immunity for the majority of the population. So not only do they not get sick, but they don't transmit it to our more fragile populations who don't have access to that immunity in safe means. Um, so that's kind of what we mean by herd immunity, having like 90% of the population immune to a particular disease to help protect the 10% that are not going to acquire immunity to where we don't transmit it to them.
Okay. Actually, our Prime Minister Boris Johnson he went on uh, Good Morning Britain, and he said he actually said that we should just take it on the chin and just allow the coronavirus to work through the population.
Yeah, I saw that.
What do you think of that?
Oh gosh. With I mean, that's how the Black Plague worked, right? I mean, we have descendants of the Black Plague who are actually immune to HIV because of an inheritable particular gene where they lack the expression of a certain receptor on their T cells, which causes the HIV to not recognize those cells. Therefore, they can't be infected by HIV. So yeah, that's one way to do it. But a lot of people tend to die with
Yeah.
that particular perspective. I think I saw a meme going around where they had put Boris Johnson's head on Lord Farquaad from Shrek.
Yes, yes, I saw that one. Yeah,
And he's like, I understand some of you are going to die, but this is a sacrifice I'm willing to take
yeah,
or make. Yeah. I'm like, oh my God. Um,
and
but there's no need for that. There's no need for that. If we just self-isolate, put into place protective measures, that can go a long way. And then that way, when somebody who is part of that fragile population ends up contracting the virus, they can go to the hospital and utilize the resources that are there. Like in the US, they're turning people away. They're not even testing them. They're not doing chest x-rays. They're not doing any of that because they lack the ability to disinfect certain areas. So if they're like, if we think you have COVID-19, we don't have everything we need to disinfect this room once we put you in here to do a chest x-ray. So you're young enough, you won't die. So just go home and write it out for a little bit until we get the resources we need to like properly treat you.
yeah,
So, That's what we're doing here. So,
Oh, right. Do these face masks actually help?
unless you're immunocompromised, there's no point. Unless you're a high risk population in an area where there's a high incidence of that particular virus, yeah, no, it's you're just gonna scare everybody around you. Otherwise, not gonna do anything.
Because they seem to be quite popular here in Leeds. A lot of people are wearing them. At first, it was just the um, Southeast Asian students who were wearing them, but now everyone seems to be wearing them.
They're wearing these,
Weird.
I hadn't been to Leeds in so long. Last time I was there, I went to your Armory Museum. I have a friend of mine, Jonathan, who lives there, and he took me to the Armory Museum. Nobody was wearing masks then. We had a very nice Sunday roast. That was really,
Nice.
yeah, it was nice. I forget which restaurant it was at. It had a little piano bar in it. It was nice, not too far from, the little, I guess, a waterway of sorts.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the canal.
Ah,
The
okay.
docks. Yeah,
Mhm.
the Royal Armoury Museum is right on the docks.
Lots of things to look at there. And
Yeah,
elephant armor is probably one of my favorite things I saw there, and a teeny tiny little pistol.
yeah, yeah. The elephant armor is one of my favorites as well, actually.
I can't imagine anybody in Leeds really, really like on death's door with this because nobody talks to each other. I'm like, I have my friend Jonathan, and we're like walking. Nobody, it's the UK. People
Yeah,
avoid each other like they have the plague at all times. So it's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
why the mask?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I joke. I made a joke to one of my friends. Uh, I'm too antisocial to catch the virus. You
It's like
know.
there are cardinal sins when you're in the UK, particularly if like you're on the tube. You don't make eye contact. You don't
Yeah.
talk to people. And if you say anything, it's usually about the weather or it's like you don't there are I know the rules, but since I'm American, I can break them and I get all kinds of like, oh, she's American, she doesn't know. That's why my friends I'm the token American for my friends when I go to the UK. They're like, "She's American, she doesn't know, I'm sorry." I'm like, "No, I totally know, but I break the rules anyway because I can." But my UK friends can't do that. They're like, "We can't break these rules." I'm like, I know the rules. I'm gonna break them for you. I will throw myself under the bus, and y'all will all apologize for me."
Yeah.
Loud Americans on the bus. Shush.
um, well, what else was I going to say?
I'm
Um,
sorry. I took a
no,
segue.
no, yeah, it's all right. Oh, a very stable milking stall is saying it's been law since 1748 that you must never talk to anyone from Leeds.
Oh, one of my dearest friends is in I have a couple of really good friends in Leeds. Next time I'm in the UK, I need to go take a train up to Leeds and go hang out with them. I really need to go to Manchester and crash a Brian Cox lecture, but Manchester's already they already know. They're like, "Please don't crash one of our lectures. We love Brian too, but come on."
Yeah.
That happened on Twitter.
And,
Oh my goodness. Anywho,
anywho, yeah. So yeah. Why? Oh yeah, yeah. So Trump, he he's gonna. Has this started yet, or is this yet to come in? That he's closing the borders from, for all the European countries, but apart from the UK, of course.
No, the UK is included now, I believe. So
Really?
y'all can't come here now. I'm sorry.
Oh dear.
Yeah, it's a shame. Why would you want to come here, get a virus, and go home?
Is that going to help anything?
um, Probably not, if I'm honest. My understanding is this virus has been here for a while,
Mm.
but the fact that we haven't been able to test, because the fact of the matter is people can carry this virus and not exhibit symptoms. It's also kind of one of the things, when you compare it to like something like HPV. There's not like a standardized test for guys, um, for HPV. There's not an FDA approved test for guys for HPV. They can be vectors, which means they can carry the cancer causing version. The more aggressive strains of HPV are 16 and 18. They can carry that, never have cancer, but they can transmit it to women. But we do have, like the smear test for women to determine whether or not they have cancer. But they may never ever have symptoms, and they can be asymptomatic the entire time. So it's likely that we've had this virus here for a while. And now that we're understanding that, okay, just because we have a certain amount of cases confirmed doesn't mean those are the only cases, because we don't have all of the tests. Um, this is where it's one of those things. If I stick my head in the ground, then it doesn't exist, kind of thing. If I close my eyes, they can't see me. It's just,
Yeah.
you know, it's extremely likely that we have a large amount of the population that's carrying this virus that doesn't know that they have the virus and are vectors for the virus. And so this self quarantine that a lot of states are implementing now in schools and colleges, events are being canceled, is to limit transmission, because of the fact we just don't have the resources available in our healthcare system right now to deal with any demand of a pandemic to where people would exhibit symptoms. So when that hits, it's going to hit. So yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
I
Um,
don't think it means anything, honestly.
all right. Yeah. Um, I know what I was going to say. I've seen quite a few people tweet this chart. This GIF. Called flattening the curve. Can you
Yes.
explain that?
Okay. So there's actually a really good website, and I've been promoting that a lot on Twitter, flatteningthecurve.com, written by a healthcare professional. You can go take a look. The idea, okay, it's not just about limiting transmission to fragile populations. It's also about limiting the initial. So let's think of it this way. If worst case scenario, everybody's touching each other, we don't have any quarantine, we're not washing our hands, we're the Italians, okay, kissing each other on the face, grabbing you know what I mean. Italians are very affectionate. So let's look at Italy. They didn't have any precautions put into place, where, active hand washing, shutting down of large venues, no preventative measures. The idea is to put in preventative measures so we don't overwhelm our healthcare system. So
Yeah.
there's two curves you see. You see this huge peak, like that huge peak where you've got like this little line, and then you got like this smaller peak here. Um,
Yeah.
the inevitable is going to be you're probably going to have the same amount of people infected by the virus. But if you
Yeah.
spread it out over a period of time, that doesn't overwhelm the hospitals, the doctors, all of the healthcare resources that we have. Because if we were to go out, not wash our hands, not close down venues, constantly engage, pass along this virus, we're going to probably have the same amount of transmission as we would if we here's the thing. So we would have the same amount of transmission as we would, but the thing is rather than having it happen all at once, we're spreading it out over a period of time. So it's a manageable amount of people rather than all at once, because all the people that fall above that line to where we can't treat them, we can't give them medications, we can't help them, they're probably going to die. So
Yeah.
flattening the curve means we're not going to be able to stop transmission 100%, but let's spread it out over a period of time to where it doesn't overwhelm our resources and our healthcare professionals can address it accordingly.
Okay. I'm going to try I've got a graphic that I'm going to try and share. Let's see if I can do this. Hang on, if you just bear with me.
Sure. I'm just sitting here drinking out of my Flash Gordon glass. You guys know that Max von Sydow passed away. I'm sad. Yes, that's flattening the curve.
Yeah. So let's see if I can.
I touched my face. Where's my quarter from my jar?
Oh.
I forgot I can use the inside of my shirt.
Oh, right. Yeah. So those are some of the websites available. Just remove that, and I put a link in the chat as well.
Mm-hmm.
So who are you saying had died?
Max von Sydow, Ming the Merciless.
Oh, Ming the Merciless.
Yes, Ming the Merciless Max. He was in his 90s.
Yeah. He had a good innings, as we say here in the UK.
He did. He was in also. He was in one of those Robin Williams films. Oh God, I can't even think of the title of the film, but it made me cry lots. I can't deal with certain Robin Williams films. I'm still not okay. So, oh my goodness. What was I can't think of the Robin Williams film Max von Sydow was in. It was the one where his wife had died and his kids had died and he was in heaven and he went through hell to find his wife to bring her back to heaven, and they decided to be reincarnated together as children. And I'm like, this is an amazing film and I can't cope with it ever again.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of the film. Y'all in the side chat if you can think of it. Gordon is still alive, so yes. And we do have see, I've had vodka tonight and I can't remember people's names. Brian Blessed. Brian Blessed is still alive, so everything's okay, guys. Gordon's alive. Yes, he is. Thank you, Brian Blessed. Brian Blessed needs to give us hand washing instructions.
He does. With his voice as well. That'd be awesome.
Brian Blessed explains hand washing. I would pay for that. I would pay $5 for that, I think. Brian Blessed, please make a hand washing video. I will give you $5. So
yeah, well, cool. Brian Blessed, he's a regular viewer of my channel. He's always watching.
I believe that. Don't all of you British people know each other? I thought y'all knew each other. Oh my God.
Oh yeah, we're a tiny island. Yeah, we know each other very well.
Aren't you friends with Brian Cox? This Leeds isn't far from Manchester. It's like halfway there, right?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm friends with Rowan Atkinson as well.
Yeah, Mr. Bean. He's not
Yeah.
annoying at all. Oh my goodness.
Mm.
That's so funny. It's one of the things that I learned when I started because oh god, let's see, back in 2011, 12, was it 12? 2012, I started venturing over to the UK, and I have a lot of friends in London. And it's weird. One of my friends on like my third or fourth trip was like, "You've met more people that I've heard of, and I live here." So it's like I
Yeah.
have run in so many circles, and met some amazing humans. And there are people who have lived there who've never met each other, but knew of each other. We're like, yeah, no, I hung out with him. We went to the Gilbert Scott, we hung out and got like a G&T. It's like go over here or whatever, but it's weird. You all don't know each other. It's weird.
Yeah. Um,
But you speak the same.
yeah. Well, some of us have got different accents to, depending on where we live.
Up north is
Um,
different.
yeah, North is very, is different, and then the Scottish accents are different again, and the different accents in the Midlands,
Midlands,
um,
yes.
and Wales, and
Oh god, Wales. Mostly consonants. And X's and W's and C's and T's just all side by side. And you're like, I don't know how to say that.
no, I know. I mean, I tried to learn Welsh once, on Duolingo, and I couldn't get my tongue round some of the words. It's, but I don't know. I may pick it up again. Who knows?
It's fun. No, I mean, not to poke fun at the UK. It's pretty awesome, the diversity that's there. I mostly poke fun at the fact that so many people just associate everybody being one thing in the UK. It's like everybody wears the suits and the ties and they have the nice, the specs, and they're standing around and they're having their pint, and then you have the people that are more like I'm gonna go get a pint at the Winchester and wait for this to blow over, kind of. It's like you got those folks, and you got like the super high end posh folks, and that's it. They only see
Yeah,
like two divisions of the
yeah,
UK and the US, but they're
and we've all got bad teeth, of course.
bad teeth.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have bad teeth because it's not part of your NHS.
um, but I- but one thing I learned at high school, which has stuck with me, is that apparently you can fit the United Kingdom 3 times over into Texas.
I don't know if that's a thing to be proud of. So, have you seen Texas?
No, no, I haven't. Only on TV.
Oh, yeah. They have really
Uh,
nice steaks there.
yeah, so I hear. I'd love to go one of these days.
You should, you should. I'll give you a list of places to go if ever you're interested. I'll be like, "What are your interests? Let me cultivate a list for you of places to go and things to avoid." So,
Yeah, that'd
oh
be
my
great. Anyway,
oh,
what else do we need to know about the coronavirus?
I've heard that Weird Al Yankovic will not be doing a version of My Sharona to My Corona, and so I'm kind of sad about that. Um,
That's a shame.
no, he already had like a My Corona type of song, but it wasn't. about the virus. He's drawn the line, and I'm like, "Ow, dude, come on."
Mhm.
We need some humor right now.
Yeah, we do. We do.
I don't know. I think the main thing is just trying to limit transmission, staying safe, washing your hands, just the standard, because it's all transmitted through droplets. I
Okay.
saw some papers making the rounds. Oh, it can live in the air for 3 hours, only if it's in droplets in the air for
Yeah.
3 hours. And the paper that's cited associated with that is, well, they sprayed it into a vessel and they tested it to see if it was still alive over the course of a period of time. But that's in a vessel. That's in a contained environment.
Yeah.
And the idea is like if you sneeze on somebody, okay, you're sneezing. Best case scenario on distance, maybe 6 feet. If it's a super strong sneeze, probably not going to get that far, honestly. Um, and then if it's going to exist in the air, it has to be in droplets. Probably not just going to be hang time up in the air when you sneeze. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
It's gravity is a thing, guys, even on droplets,
Yeah.
rain, you know. So it's going to hit a surface. It can exist on a surface, depending on the surface, anywhere from a few hours to about a day or two. But if you're just washing your hands, washing your surfaces, coughing into your arm, we're not going to shake hands with our elbows because who does that? Or the
Yeah.
inside of it. Hey, let me rub my sneeze juice on you. I mean, nobody's gonna do that. So it's
No.
like sneeze into there, wash your hands, try to be mindful that you're not touching your face. That's really hard.
Yeah.
It's just kind of one of those things.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, there's so much. Why is there so much panic? Because I mean, we talked briefly about the SARS virus, and there's been I- other there's been other scares over the years that I remember. Um, there was bird flu and then swine flu, but I don't remember nowhere near as much panic as we're seeing now.
I think it's largely due to the fact that we don't have tests in place. We don't have a solid response to it. The panic usually comes from the fact that governing bodies don't have a plan. I mean, the US didn't have a plan because in November of 2018, it was the task force associated just for things like this was completely disbanded. So if you don't have a plan of action for something like this to happen, people tend to get scared. Even though it's not lethal to the majority of the population. Um, it still can elicit a bit of panic in certain individuals because the fact is we don't have tests. We're turning people away for treatment because we don't want to overwhelm our healthcare system. Um, so, because we were not prepared for this, people are freaking out,
Yeah. Uh,
you know?
uh, and of course, the cure for this panic has to be education, right?
Yes. But then you have like all the Karens on Facebook. I find it really interesting that none of the healing oils and crystals sold out.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't
interesting.
remember that.
Yeah, I would have thought that Gwyneth Paltrow would be cashing in on this.
Did you see that Jim Baker is getting sued by the Missouri attorney general for
Yeah, I
selling
saw that. I saw that
illegal silver?
on Godless Engineers channel.
Oh
You
my
know,
god.
he was talking about it, and
Yes. He's
so yeah,
getting
that's hilarious. That is
he is.
he's a
Oh my
charlatan.
He
He,
really is. I hate him. Sometimes I appear on other people's channels. One channel I appear on is Omniera Says. I don't know if you know Omnieras, but we were talking about Jim Baker when he came out with selling colloidal silver. Guys, if you drink colloidal silver, you'll turn blue like a Smurf, and that's all that will happen to you. Nothing else. You'll turn
yeah,
blue. And
yeah,
then you can sing what's that? I'm blue, da ba dee ba dee. That will completely be appropriate for you at that point.
yeah. He's literally a snake oil salesman.
Oh my god, yes.
Yeah.
I can't stand him, and I really hate that his wife is gone. She was amazing. She was an advocate for LGBTQ individuals and a lot I don't know what it was, but, um she was Tammy Faye Baker. Look her up. She was amazing.
All right. No, I didn't know about her. But and yet Trump said he announced a day of prayer
Yeah,
because
how
that will
nice.
help.
That's I'd rather have kits, you know, testing kits to find out
Yeah,
if we have the virus or not.
yeah, a day of prayer. Ah. Anyway,
If you need just a single day in the entire year, I think you're doing it wrong.
yeah,
That's just my opinion.
isn't he just pandering to the religious rights?
I think so. Um, One of the scary things in particular that I've learned in the community that I live in primarily a farm community, a lot of primarily poor individuals. I used to teach out here in the school district. So I taught evolution to farm kids in the Bible Belt, which was its own challenge. But it was actually work. You know, I actually did pretty good work here. Um, but on the day of the election when Trump was elected, it was frightening. It was a frightening degree of, "Oh my god, who are my neighbors?" When the majority of the signs in their yards were Trump signs, and I'm like, "Wow,
Yeah,
wow." If I came out with any kind of opposition. And to be quite honest, prior to 2005, the town that I live in, they had for a very long time listed on their town website, the KKK was one of their clubs and groups and part of a member of the community for a little while. So this wasn't the 1960s. It wasn't
mm,
prior to that. This was the early 2000s. Um, so it's pretty scary.
yeah,
Uh, it's pretty scary. And they
mm,
finally decided maybe we shouldn't have this on the town website, you know,
yeah.
as being endorsers of the KKK. Woo!
Yeah. I know it's he's given a voice to these people.
Yes. There's a sign, so when I drive through the town, Obamacare, that was the Affordable Healthcare Act that the US passed. There's like a
Yeah.
sign, random sign in front of like a computer tech store that says, "Say no to Islamacare."
Oh dear.
And I'm like, that's there every day, and I pass by it, I'm like, "Okay, if you guys didn't have the Affordable Health Care Act, you probably wouldn't have insurance, but okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
It's sorry, go on.
I'm just saying it's just strange because um my experience, and I live here. I have a mortgage here. And so it's like living in this environment, this, leave it to beaver, Warren and June Cleaver type of ideal of the American dream. And you have people who are heavy Trump supporters who have gun racks in their trucks. And it's
Yeah.
like, I was educating their kids, and I'm like, this, um, I almost a part of me feels like I have betrayed society because I did not stay in education in this area just for the sole purpose of possibly converting minds. Um,
Yeah.
so it's like that, but what I'm doing now is really, really important compared. And what I did before is important, but what I'm doing now I feel is much more rewarding, and I'm able to do more stuff than what I could before. But still, it's just there's so much work to be done, guys, and I am
Yeah.
one person. So,
Yeah.
help.
Yeah. I am. I've just sent a link to a very stable milking stall because he's asking to join. So
Sure.
yeah, very stable milking stall. Check your DMs in Twitter because I've just sent you a link to join in. Um, so I think we've covered everything we there is to cover about the coronavirus.
Yes,
Um,
probably.
but is is it is it the start of the apocalypse, as some people seem to be suggesting?
God, if it is, it's a really boring one. Go watch Good Omens. That's the start of an apocalypse. Get Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman to write it for you. That's way better.
Okay, yeah, I'll have to watch that.
Oh God, have
Um,
you not?
no, I haven't.
Oh, go watch Good Omens. That's your homework while you're in, isolation or whatever they call it. Yeah, it's like sequestering or, quarantine.
Yeah,
It's
self
amazing.
isolation. Yeah, I think yeah. I mean, because I've got Amazon Prime,
You
so
have to watch. How have you not watched Good Omens?
I
Shame
know
on
I
you.
just haven't got round to watching it. It's one of the it's just one of those things, I guess.
Okay,
But
it's like 6 episodes. Each one is around an hour or so. It's
yeah,
amazing. It's
yeah,
absolutely amazing. I
yeah.
love. I've seen it like 5 times all the way through.
Wow. Yeah, I'll have to check it out then. Yeah.
It
So go on.
No, I was just gonna say, it's one of the things, like, so last October, I went to the Netherlands and hung out with Doc Savage. I was like, "We have got to watch Good Omens." If you like Douglas Adams, it walks the line of Douglas Adams type of storytelling to where it's kind of a jokester, but at the same time, it just kinda hits it a bit hard in different
Yeah,
things. It's really cool. And who doesn't love David Tennant and Michael Sheen? Oh my god.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, you've mentioned Doc Savage a couple of times now. Well, where can we find Doc Savage?
Um, so he used to do a show with me called Oral Audacity, and so, he's, like, been hopping around a bit. He's had some different life circumstances kind of interjected. He's on Omni Eris's channel. He shows up from time to time, over in different parts of the internet. But if you'd like to see, what he does, so when he was on my show Oral Audacity, we would bust bad science, and we had about 20 episodes of that. He still does a show with Omnieris called the Psychic Vampires Podcast, where they go through the darker side of YouTube. So,
Okay.
yeah, it's like, wow, I learned about people watching that show. It's
Yeah.
like,
Wow.
wow, urine therapy is a thing and people do stuff like that. Sometimes they talk about Shanny, sometimes I don't really see a whole lot of G-Man on there so much, but it's like Shanny and urine therapy and cult leaders and uh, different individuals who probably should be in jail.
Yeah.
So, uh, yeah, so he walks along the darker side of things, but to his credit, the Doc Savage I know is a highly revered leading expert in his field. So, um, what he does on YouTube is vastly different from Meat Space, People Land. So, and I'm fortunate to call him my friend because he's absolutely lovely, a gentleman, and a scholar. That's what I'm just gonna say. So,
Oh, okay, great. It doesn't look like a very stable milking stall is going to
uh,
is going to join. I sent him a link, but
oh, that's a
yeah,
shame.
yeah. And we've been talking for over an hour,
We
and
have.
yeah, so I think we'll wrap things up. I think we've covered everything we need to cover
Sure.
about the coronavirus. I think we've educated a few people,
Mhm.
which is always a good thing. So yeah, thanks for joining me.
It was a lot of fun. I don't mind spreading awareness and helping boost understanding. I think that's important. Keep calm and wash your hands.
Exactly. For 20 seconds.
Pick your favorite song. I can give you a list if you need one. Rickroll yourself. Never gonna give you up. Never gonna let you
That's a
down.
good one. Um, so, thanks to scientist Mel for joining me, and thanks to everyone who has been watching live and contributing in the side chat. And if you've liked this video and you'd like to see more videos like this, then uh, you know, let me know in the comments. And if you're new, do subscribe. And I just want to say this channel will never be monetized. Um, because I made a conscious decision early on that I will never run adverts on my channel, and for ethical reasons. And so, if you want to support this channel, there are links in the description. You can become a Patreon. You can buy me a cup of coffee, or you can make a one-off donation via PayPal. So yeah, the links are in the description. To those things as well, and hit the bell icon, and yeah, stay tuned, and yeah, and thanks for watching. See you next time.